Look, it's Kirby. I love Kirby. Everyone loves Kirby. Why? Well, a lot of reasons, but, I don't know. Look at him. Look at him go. He's, sure is moving. Hey, what if he wasn't moving? I wonder. What if we remove Kirby's defining gameplay mechanic? Oh god, I can't even finish that one. But for real, can we play Kirby and not actually have him move at all? Let's find out. This is Kirby's Return to Dreamland. What is the minimum required inputs needed to clear the game? If any. Oh, but if you actually want to know why I love Kirby so much, the rules are simple. See Kirby? Can't move. Wow. But before we get too crazy, we need to actually define what Kirby is in the context of Return to Dreamland. This is very important, so buckle up. This is Kirby. Hi, Kirby. He's round, he's strong, and he's pink. See this fella? This isn't Kirby. This is yellow Kirby. He's also round, and he's also powerful, but he's not pink. See why that rule is important? We're going to generally move Kirby around using multiple Kirbys. And there's a reason I picked Return to Dreamland over other games. Although I love Return to Dreamland a lot, so there's that. But hold on. You might be thinking, wouldn't going through all the levels with other Kirbys be really easy? Doesn't sound like much of a challenge to me. Well, you would be right, except for one tiny little detail. The camera in this game only follows Kirby, player 1. Any other player, be they another Kirby, Day-to-Day, Mennonite, or Bandana D, if they go too far from Kirby, they get pulled back. This heavily restricts how far we can move through the levels, without having to worry about lazy little Kirby over there. Also, with most challenge runs, the goal is pretty much just to get from start to finish, but I wanted to make this run as challenging as I could. So to help it stand out, we're gonna have some fun. I'll be attempting to get as many of the energy spheres and get as close to 100% as I possibly can. Yeah, I know. Me too, buddy. Going into this, my goal is gonna get 90% completion. If it says 90%, I'm good. And on that note, the amount of inputs we're going to have to press with Kirby, my goal for this is 0. I think that should kind of go without saying. But in case we can't do this, I'm going to have a secondary goal, and that goal is going to be 30. It sounds like a high number, and for a challenge run, it kind of is. But I'm just thinking about what kind of run this is, and I think 30 is a reasonable goal to have. Another thing I want to mention right away is the topic of menu selection. Scrolling through worlds and selecting one. Say I want to go from Cookie Country to Raisin Ruins. Doing that, I'm not going to count it as an input. I'm more concerned about actually clearing the levels with Kirby. Just because I can't actually get to a world and select it doesn't mean I'm going to put that on the input count. If you want to do that, go nuts with your own counter. I'm not going to be doing it. I don't think it's really all that important. This also applies to the challenge rooms. Unfortunately, we can't actually do the copyability challenge rooms because we have to enter them as Kirby. While entering them as Kirby wouldn't actually count against our input total, you gotta press a lot of buttons in order to beat those, so our input number would be crazy high if we were to go for that. The idea is to get as little as possible while getting as much as possible. So the challenge rooms, unfortunately, we are going to have to skip. Our rules are set. Our goal is to not move Kirby from the very beginning until we beat spoilers, by the way. Okay, cool. From the start of the game until we defeat Magolor EX, we will not be moving Kirby. First up is Cookie Country, and there's not actually all that much to say about it as a whole. The run itself starts pretty simple, so instead of actually talking about Cookie Country, we'll be going over a lot of the strategies that I'm going to be using in the run. First, and most interesting to me, is how we're going to be moving Kirby himself, because, come on, look at this. We're not going to move Kirby all this way. Bandana D, stop, please. Thank you. As stated earlier, we're going to be using yellow, blue, and or green Kirby to help our Kirby move around. We do this by using one of the game's 2 mechanics, one defining single player and franchise, and one helping define the multiplayer, inhaling and piggybacking. I'm sure we all know what they are, but how are they different? Well, inhaling is easier and faster to do. It recovers HP for both the Kirbys when they're eating food. Getting hit does not separate the 2 Kirbys, but you can go underwater with a Kirby inhaled, although you have to inhale the Kirby on land. And the only way to separate is either by dying or by doing it by choice. Piggybacking, on the other hand, allows you to float. The only setup required is Kirby and a wall, so it is still pretty easy to set up. You can still inhale and spit enemies as well as use copy abilities, and you can crouch and go through fallable floors. Neither of them can carry items or grab ledges. Neither of them can use ladders. You would think the piggybacking Kirby could use ladders, but believe it or not, he can't. And most importantly, neither of them require any input from Kirby. Because it's so easy to set up, I prefer using Inhale. You're going to see that one a lot more in this run. But I was really surprised with how many differences there were between the two. There were a lot of moments in the run where I wanted to use Inhale because there was a reason to, while also there were multiple points in the run I wanted to use piggybacking because it was better suited. It wasn't really just up to personal preference. I had to decide going into each situation which is better, the Inhale or the piggybacking. Stuff like this is really fascinating to me because why is it so interesting? One is a mechanic that's existed for years, one was thrown in there to make the multiplayer more fun. But speaking of the other Kirbys, the drop-in, drop-out nature of the multiplayer is very handy, but it drains your life count really quick. That's because you don't get your life back by dropping out unless you're at full health. And yes, there are many instances where the less Kirbys you have to worry about, the better, so you will want to drop out, even if it means you're pretty much sacrificing a life. Expect to see the game over screen quite a lot in this run. Another topic of interest comes in regards to the super abilities. Throughout the game, the super ability segments themselves really aren't too hard. Inhale or piggyback Kirby with another Kirby, then go through the actual super ability parts with another Kirby. Simple. But what about the alternate dimensions? These are auto-scrolling segments where we need to be quick on our feet at all times. A lot of these are designed in a way where Kirby's supposed to use the Super Inhale to suck up a bunch of blocks and spit them out. Obviously, since we need Kirby inhaled, can't enter these segments piggybacking, we need to be creative with how we work around here, and when they come up later on, I'll mention them. But you know what I'll mention right now? I need Wii Remotes to play this game. You're probably wondering, what's the issue? Well, we can't move Kirby, so we won't be using the Player 1 Wii Remote. Harmless, right? I have no idea what could possibly... This screen right here is the most aggravating part of the run. Occasionally it got me a good laugh, but it kills the momentum. You could just occasionally press the B button or something, I guess, since that doesn't have a function in the game, so it won't count as an input. But this challenge gets really tricky, and the last thing you want to do is lose your focus by having to constantly hit a stupid button so this annoying prompt goes away. Urgh. Oh, and I discovered that this could happen. That's another thing to watch out for, the super abilities, I guess. Before we get to the boss of Cookie Country, though, I will say this. You can actually get every single energy sphere here without having to move Kirby. None of them are particularly interesting, so instead of going over everything in boring detail, here's a fun little montage of each of the spheres being obtained. Now, bosses in this game are pretty simple. They're a lot of fun, and going through them in the arena, and especially the true arena, is an absolute blast, and, you know, actually kind of hard. But for the sake of this challenge, we just use Day-to-Day. He's really good. He really trivializes them. Watch. And with that, Cookie Country is finally over. Getting everything and not moving Kirby once, we move on to Raisin Ruins, where things got a bit more complicated. I won't be brushing over this one like I did with Cookie Country, so let's get right into it. Starting off, there's nothing too interesting about Raisin Ruins 1, although I did get Kirby his first energy sphere. Good for him. These segments with the falling boulders also drain your health really quickly if you aren't careful, so watch out for those. Otherwise, though, it's pretty simple, and you can get all the energy spheres here, no problem. Raisin Ruins 2 is where things get interesting, because this level has water. This particular pool of water won't prove much of an obstacle, but it does give me a chance to explain that you can, in fact, push Kirby underwater, left and right. But can you push him up and down? No! Uh-oh. Also of note is that if Kirby's either underwater or in his cute little buoy or... What are those things called again? I don't remember. Buoy? I'm just gonna call them buoys. He can't be inhaled. Footage is right here, folks. Things, predictably, are very simple until we get to this part of the level. This is, in fact, a full body of water where Kirby starts on the ground. No matter what we do, we can't push Kirby up or down, so we have to push him left and right. Fortunately for us, if Kirby manages to find his way off the ground in one way or another, we can still push him left and right, which will prove to be helpful. As for this specific part of the level, check it out. We actually have enough room to enter this door without having to have Kirby leave the water at all. That's the first possibly problematic input we've saved this playthrough, and there will be a lot more. That said, big warning, this energy speed here, easy to get, but is a complete trap. The only way you can get in is through this door, which, when coming back, pops Kirby on the ground, where we can't push him. There's no way to get him back up from here. Save an input, we're gonna have to ignore this one. But Raisin Ruins 2 isn't done just yet. The super ability segment with Flare Beam is stopping us from victory, and it's normal for a super ability segment. But I did want to mention that Flare Beam is in fact my favorite of the super abilities. Anyway, now we need to worry about the alternate dimension segment. What starts off as a fairly innocent segment quickly turns disastrous, where this happens. Yeah, we can't pass through here by spitting Kirby out like that. We can't piggyback into the water either, since Kirby will plop right off. And yes, I tried inhaling, but this happens. I came back to it after I finished the run, and still, I couldn't do it. We're gonna have to move on to the next level. Raisin Ruins 3 is much simpler than the last one. Look, I even got these 2 energy spheres by complete accident. The only remotely challenging part is getting through these Gordos without taking damage, since using high jump while piggybacking just kind of pushes Kirby off you, and we don't want that. But even still, it's not that hard, it's just tricky. Now that we got all the energy spheres in Raisin Ruins 3, we move on to Raisin Ruins 4. I accidentally let Kirby grab the key here, but a quick super inhale is all it took to fix that. You'll need a copy ability to get into this door, but once you get what you need, getting the energy sphere and going back on track is really easy. For this dark sections, I split up my Kirbys for safety reasons. This particular dark section isn't really all that dangerous, but they get deadlier later on, so this is good practice. Third energy sphere, which requires you to use the invisibility stone, that's what it's called, yes, is really difficult to get. I actually didn't get it on my first try and had to come back later. It's a really fun energy sphere to get in a challenge like this. If you don't want to do a full game run of moving Kirby, and trust me, I understand, coming to a lot of the energy spheres that require you to use items are really the highlights of the run, I feel. And lastly, another super ability segment, simple Ultra Sword stuff, and then a trip to an alternate dimension. This one's pretty simple to go through by inhaling Kirby until you get to this point, where you spit him out to initiate a piggyback. From there, just keep going on as normal, beat the Sphere Doomer, and you're done. Next stop is the boss. Second verse, same as the first, and Raisin Ruins is done. We didn't get all the energy spheres, but Kirby still hasn't needed any inputs. We're actually doing this. Maybe, just maybe, it's possible. Is what I thought until Onion Ocean happened. Right away, Onion Ocean 1 takes no prisoners. This may not look hard, and I did big-minded a bit by spitting Kirby out to safety. Above bottomless pits, mind you, making it very risky. But then I accidentally pushed him into the water. He was dead. Yeah. But after that, this happens, and it's even riskier. If Kirby gets stuck like he does here, leave the stage. You don't get him off without pressing an input. You have to start over. Ugh, jeez, this is already such a difficulty spike over Raisin Ruins. What the heck could happen next? No. No, no. This is what I was dreading the most. Kirby's on the floor, we can't push him up, and there's no door to go into before another Kirby gets pulled back. Copy abilities don't help, other Kirbys don't help, the other friends don't help, entering with Kirby and HAL doesn't help, the Wii Remote disconnecting doesn't help! Unfortunately, we don't have a choice. I spent a long time thinking of a possible solution, but 0 inputs for Kirby's Return to Dreamland is dead. But we only need to move Kirby up, right? Initially, I thought, no, you also need to go right so you can move him towards the wall. But since you only need to press up to jump when in the buoy, you can just push him over by using another Kirby while holding up. Since we're holding the up button the whole time, it's only one input. So that's good, only needing one input, that's not too bad. Even better than that though, and you want to hear the punchline? The rest of Onion Ocean 1, really easy! Just having Kirby inhale the whole time makes the rest of it a complete cakewalk. Especially since Snowball, the super ability for this level, pulls Kirby into it and keeps him safe. For the alternate dimension, be careful of course, water, which even makes an appearance in the Sphere Doomer fight, but if you just be careful of the water, it's pretty easy and very doable. Onion Ocean 2 might look scary at first, since it begins with a giant pool of water, but fortunately for us, we can inhale Kirby first, making this first room very easy. Except not really. Come on, this is almost unfair, we were so close. But you can't piggyback while in the buoy, you have to be on some sort of solid ground to do it. So, once again, we forfeit an input. Thankfully, it's once again just pressing up one time, given we align everything correctly. By the way, this door, another trap. There's an energy sphere inside, but of course, we need to sacrifice another input in order to move on when we're done. Like the one in Raisin Ruins, so ignore it. Also has the Stomper Boot, yes, that's what it's called. And the segments with them are a lot of fun. Like with the Invisibility Stone, I wasn't experienced enough with my Kirbys to do this initially, so we'll come back to it later. But it's possible, and it's super fun. Anyways, moving on with the level, we have another segment where we start above the water. Ah, yes. Onion Ocean 2, thank you. You are being merciful. Finally, we catch... Oh, come on! At least it's the last room in the level. Onion Ocean 3 starts with... Oh my god! Actually... This isn't bad at all. We just push Kirby over and we're good. Wish we could inhale him, but again, he needs to be on solid ground. If you keep pushing him, you eventually will get to that solid ground. And then you can just inhale him and he's safe. We're good. Things get real spicy with this room, though. When I first saw this, I panicked and thought that 30 inputs or less was dead. And yes, you do need to press up to get Kirby going here, but it's only pressing up once, right? It's like all the others. Here's the thing. You need to let go of up so that Kirby can get through here, but then you need to press it again to get him to advance through this part. The current makes you go up quick enough so that you only have to press up, but that's still 2 more inputs from one room. Now, I'm not going to keep counting the video, so if you're not keeping count yourself, look forward to the ending where I reveal the final numbers. It's going to be crazy! For the rest of the room, the current does its job for us, thankfully. But then, this. Come on, another input! Once again, up will do the trick, since another Kirby can break these blocks. This part actually had me stumped for a while, since piggybacking doesn't work. Annoyingly, entering the water pushes Kirby too far up for him to go down the current. He'll land on this little platform here. And if you jump to inhale, you go too high, and your Kirby will land on the platform. We can't inhale, and we can't piggyback. That means another input, right? Actually, no. Look at this. Yeah, it turns out you can actually cancel your jump's momentum with an inhale. And since Kirby's on solid ground, if we time our jump perfectly and start shaking the Wii remote, we can actually save this input. Finally, some good news, right? For this part, the current once again does its job for us, but we need yet another input to move Kirby up. The name of this run should actually be, what are the minimum amount of up presses does it take to beat Kirby's Return to Dreamland instead? At least it's only one additional input. At this point, we can inhale him and move on. Get this energy sphere, enter this door, underwater, and press another input. This level's killing our record. This is the same deal as the last input, just press up. This room is almost the same as that one, actually. So that whole jump momentum canceling super inhale trick I was talking about before, that's also gonna work here. The main difference is that this time I was kind of an idiot and swallowed him while I was underwater, oopsie doops, but that didn't get another input since the current pushed Kirby along and I was okay. Next room, another input. I'm not even gonna waste time being angry anymore. Another input here. Oh, except this time it's down and not up for once. Then another one here, and... oh, this looks really dangerous. Kirby can power boost through these first Gordos, but then he has to press up to get back in his buoy. Thankfully, he can just hold up here. He doesn't actually have to press 2, which would sacrifice another input. Unfortunately, you do have to jump here, which would count as a separate input, because the Super Inhale can't reach Kirby from that far away. And finally, the cursed room is over. The alternate dimension isn't too hard either, and with the help from another Kirby, I beat the Sphere Doomer and put this terrible, terrible input-heavy level to rest. But we're not done with Onion Ocean yet. There's still Onion Ocean 4 to go. Onion Ocean 3 was just really demoralizing, and spoilers, but Onion Ocean 4 also has a lot of inputs. So instead of going over the whole level like I did for that one, we're just gonna skim through the inputs real quick, okay? Okay. That was disastrous. Thankfully, the boss, as always, go down with 0 inputs. When I finally cleared Onion Ocean, I was really worried if the goal of 30 would still be in reach. Going to White Wafers, I'm extremely worried, but on the bright side, there's a lot less water. Hopefully the input counter shouldn't go up anymore. Get it? Up. So, now that you're done disliking the video for that pun, good news! White Wafers 1, 0 inputs. Believe it or not, you can even get all 3 energy spheres, and they're all really easy. I was a little worried when I got to the cannons at first, since I thought for each individual cannon release, I would have to have Kirby press 2. But luckily, if you have another Kirby in the cannon, they can press 2, and you don't really lose any inputs with Kirby, so that's nice. White Wafers 2 is much more dangerous with all the slippery ice, bottomless pits, and the icicles falling from the ceiling. The latter of which can easily knock Kirby right into the bottomless pits. If you maneuver your Kirbys well and carefully, you should be good though. That being said, don't be like me and forget to bring fire for this first energy sphere. You need to use fire to melt the ice and then light the cannon. I did not have fire for this point, so we're gonna have to come back, I guess. Another Stomper Boot section is next, and as always, they're really tricky, but also a lot of fun. At this point, I wasn't good enough at these sections to get them cleared, so until we get to the point where I actually could do it, I'm just going to mention that they're here, they're fun, I couldn't do it, we're going to move on. That said, something even trickier than the Stomper Boot part is getting the second energy sphere. Getting to this point isn't hard since it's directly after the second Stomper Boot, but look at this. You need to stomp on each of these Mapu to make it to the top, but if you get too far from Kirby, the bouncing Kirby will be teleported right back. Meaning, you need to get Kirby piggybacking on another Kirby, begin a float, and keep above your bouncing Kirby so that you don't get hit and have your player 1 Kirby flung off of you. It's hard, but really fun and super satisfying once you clear it. Later in the level, we have another super ability segment, and as usual, these are nothing too bad, but the alternate dimension segment is worth talking about because this one heavily involves transporting keys. And you know what we can't do while piggybacking or having Kirby inhaled? That's right, pick up keys. Initially, I figured having a third, or second, maybe third, another friend around to move around the keys and such while Kirby was inhaled, but I took advantage of how ridiculous the Super Inhale's range is and had a constant back and forth of inhaling Kirby, swallowing him out so I could pick up the key, use the key, Super Inhale him again, rinse, repeat. The footage speaks for itself. White Wafers 3 is up next, and Interesting tidbit here. Even if you aren't on a ladder, if you're standing near one and you press down to slide, the game will think you're getting off a ladder. And since it registers you as being on a ladder, your Kirby falls off. And then we come across a water section. Oh, thank God, I was missing these. We are, once again, in a bad looking situation. Oh, wish me luck. Starting off, it's actually not that bad. I mean, it's hard, and it took me, I don't know, a few dozen attempts, but I managed to push Kirby over this small gap here without him moving. Progress! Unfortunately, we have to use an input to get Kirby over this hump. And of course, it's an up input. What else would it be? No other inputs. Then we get to this room and we're just barely gonna miss this one, aren't we? Time to add another input to the counter, I guess. Oh! Well, what do you know? We could just barely push Kirby far enough to where the game considers him out of water. That's an input saved! It starts off with a really fun, strong wind section, and the energy sphere is pretty easy to get, so not only is it easy, it's also pretty fun. Then there's a race with the carry D. Fun fact, they're called Wonkies now, and one time they were even called Keydies. I'm not sure why they've had 3 different names, but now you know. Then after that, an easy snowball section, a difficult but really fun alternate dimension where I actually use the slide, what do you know, and there you go, that level's finished. White Wafers is where we start having 5 levels in each world, so up next is White Wafers 5. This one has some really tricky energy spheres. The level otherwise is simple and very slow paced, although be careful in the lights out section. If you aren't that careful, it's easy to fall into a bottomless pit, but there's not much here that can really get in your way, so overall, it's not too bad. To be on the safe side, I took everyone's idol Bandana D, and he kept me safe. After this, we beat the boss by abusing everyone's favorite king, and then we move on to Nutty Noon, which is my favorite world in the entire game. I wonder how it's going to be for this run, I can hardly wait. Nutty Noon 1 is very, very tricky to maneuver around. There's a lot of bottomless pits, or in this case, I guess it's the sky, so it's not really a pit, and it's not bottomless either, but point is, you still die, okay? On top of that, enemy placement is actually starting to get kind of tricky. Staying on the high path here with Kirby inhaled, while another Kirby dealt with the enemies worked best for me. So after this room is this one. Oh boy. Spoilers here, but we don't actually need any inputs to clear this room. In fact, the logic here is actually really simple. The wind's blowing up, so all we need to do is get Kirby piggybacking and ride the current. We could try and inhale, but our jump isn't big enough to get over all the platforms. And it's also really difficult to jump with the current pushing us up. Trust me, I tried this for way too long and it sucks. But that's not a big deal. We can just piggyback, right? Well, how are we going to set up the piggyback? The walls are bottomless pits, and Kirby will just fall into the bottomless pit if we try to set it up like this. To get a piggyback set up, the Kirby that's doing the piggybacking has to be on the ground. There is no ground. What do we do? The answer is this lovely Parasol Waddle Dee here. If we spit Kirby onto the Waddle Dee, then we can catch him as he lands and initiate a piggyback. You don't need walls. Enemies also work. Thank goodness. Still, I'm a little worried. I really don't want to have to set that up again. So I situate my Kirbys like this for maximum safety. And I don't miss this door that has the energy sphere inside, and from there, it's smooth sailing. With that being said, Nutty Noon 1 isn't about to let up. This part here is even more difficult. Last time the logic was simple enough, but actually finding a way to get everything set up was the hard part. Here, the setup's not that hard. And really, even the logic is kind of simple, but you need to be extremely careful up here. You have to inhale Kirby. Don't try piggybacking, you will die way quicker that way. And keep your inhaled Kirby safe from harm on these platforms that your other Kirby can accidentally cut through. Word of advice, don't go with wing here. It's doable and fast, but the wing flapping cuts the leaves holding the platforms up. Go with spear instead for safety reasons. Also, don't be on the platform you need to cut to get to the room with the energy sphere in it, like I did. This part here is much easier than it looks due to the lack of bottomless pits, but don't miss the energy sphere. But with that, we're finally done with Nutty Noon 1. And would you look at that, no input so far. Nutty Noon 2 is next, and it's gorgeous. Oh, I love the backgrounds in this game, and this is the best looking one in the entire thing, for sure. But does this have anything to do with the video? No, not really, I guess. Hey look, bottomless pits! Our favorite! This part is super fun to micromanage since you're practically given bomb and an absolute ton of vertical space to work with. Even if we were moving Kirby, I'd love this part. There's a balloon bomb here that we need to access the energy sphere too, adding a time limit to it. So good. This room is pretty easy, although I want to know how the heck my piggybacking got ruined here. I think it's because the game considers me in a corner, and when you're next to a corner or you're underneath a slant, that ends the piggyback, even though I'm technically not in a corner at first. Oh, yeah, I think I forgot to mention that. If you're inhaling in the air and you're on a ceiling, Kirby will not pop off, but if you're on a slant or in a corner, Kirby will just kind of plummet off and land and be all by himself. Jeez, I'm learning things about this game that I never even thought that I'd care about. And it's 8 years old. After this, we have Flare Beam section. Again, it's the best super ability. And this section here is among my favorite uses of the super abilities, actually. The alternate dimension segment is another great timing-based one. You have to constantly shift between having Kirby inhaled and swallowing him out to advance. In this case, it's hitting a bomb block. Beat the Sphere Doomer, get the energy spheres, and finish the level. Definitely a highlight of the run, in my opinion. Which is good, because I really did not like Nutty Noon 3. Normally, I love this level, and the music is fantastic, I still think that. But I got stuck here for a long time. This first bit here worried me a lot, since your airspeed is too slow to move forward while the current is pushing you. But it's actually a pretty easy fix. Just jump, wait a bit, and spam float. It's easy. Then there's this part. I went through so many potential solutions before thinking of an actually easy one that I wanted to pull my hair out. First, I tried to repeat what I just did. Nice try, but the gap's too long. Whatever. Then, I tried inhaling Kirby and spitting him out, trying to maybe manipulate where he'd stop, but that didn't work either. What makes this all the more difficult is that there's a really strong wind current pushing me back. So while I'm trying to position myself properly, the wind is pushing me back, which is messing up my positioning. And a lot of times, because of the wind, I'm getting knocked down, which means this stupid enemy that's so annoying I'm not even gonna grace with a name is constantly respawning. It's really annoying. Save all of you some time. And by some time, I mean 2 whole hours. I'll skip to the biggest galaxy mind idea that I had. It's pretty good. I have 4 Kirbys here. I'll have Kirby piggyback on yellow Kirby, then have yellow Kirby piggyback on blue Kirby, then I'll have blue Kirby piggyback on green Kirby. Setting this up was not easy, but eventually, I did it. Now that the setup is ready, I'm gonna have green Kirby jump towards this little safe area here, and then when we reach an ideal height, we'll have blue Kirby jump off of the green Kirby. I figured this would work because the jump doesn't reduce your airspeed. You actually still move forward despite the really strong wind current. Then, when we get to an ideal height for the blue Kirby, I would have yellow Kirby jump off, and at that point, I'd be on the platform where I could just get there and be safe. And you know what? It didn't work. I had spent so much time getting it set up. The stupid wind always getting in my way. And mind you, I'm doing this by myself. No one else is helping me get these Kirby set up. It's just me. And it didn't work. I was mad. At this point, I was desperate. I was not about to give up this button input. There was no water involved, and if I did have to give up this input, it would have to be a left press, and then multiple 2 presses, and then a 1 to exhale, and then more left presses to get Kirby dashing. Too many inputs. I'm not about to give this up. There has to be a way around this. And then the painfully easy solution hit me. Parasol would be perfect for this, wouldn't it? Yeah, this whole time I hadn't thought of my favorite copy ability that you get for free in Nutty Noon 1. Okay. So, come on, please work, please work, please work, please work, please. You've got to be kidding me! Yeah, a mechanic of Parasol in the entire series is that you can slowly descend with it. But if you want to get out of that state, you press down and you enter a falling state. When you're piggybacking with someone, you automatically enter that state after Parasol Drill. Okay, so clearly that doesn't work, but if we can get another Parasol Drill out before we enter that animation, will that work? Parasol Drill is the only move I can think of that allows us to cross this gap With the wind currents this strong, that doesn't end our piggyback. This has to work. It has to. It worked. Oh my god. It worked. It actually worked. Yes. Now we can just inhale Kirby, spit him out in a way that lets us piggyback. Yes, the wind is actually this strong. And we can advance. I didn't have Kirby press a single button. But you want a punchline for all this, do you? You want to know the funniest part, do you? The rest of the level is a joke. It's really, really easy. Nothing is even remotely challenging here. Look at how badly I messed up and I still got the key in time. In fact, all the energy spheres here are easy to get. You can get all of them, not press a button. It's easy. It's just this one part that was a nightmare. Huh. Nutty Noon 4 is next. There's still a lot of tight maneuvering here, so be careful. Don't make the mistake of letting your piggybacking Kirby get the energy sphere. Kirby will fall off if you do that. Just have another Kirby help out and you'll be good. And already we're almost done here. Just beat Super Bonkers, wreak havoc with the Grand Hammer, finish a tricky alternate dimension segment, and you're done. Nutty Noon 5, very easy mini-boss endurance. Great callback to Kirby's Adventure, but not too difficult for our run. Just be sure to keep swapping abilities after beating the mini-bosses with Day-to-Day, and you'll have an easy time. Grand Doomer also isn't really all that hard. Although at the end, do be careful to switch out Day-to-Day for another Kirby, since you need a super ability to finish. Did we just finish all of Nutty Noon without hitting a single button? We did it! Oh, after the painful experience of Onion Ocean, and after getting so close with White Wafers, we did it. Yeah, that felt great. Whew. At the time I was recording this, oh, you can't even imagine how happy I was. It was tough, really tough, but I pulled through. Now let's leave Dreamland, head for Halcondra, and end this mess. Egg Engines 1 is first, and right off the bat, don't worry about this cannon here. There's only a 1-up to be gained from it, no energy spheres. Not much else to say on this one, other than the alternate dimension bit being really fun and really hard. This is another one that involves spitting an object onto a bomb block to advance. Only this time, you're being pushed forward by treadmills on the bottom, and spikes being directly next to them. So when you spit Kirby out, you better be ready to inhale him back. You also need to be careful of the Mapoo, because if you take too long inhaling them, you'll take damage thanks to the spikes. But then there's this section here that kills Kirby if you aren't quick enough. But I just made it with this beyond clutch super inhale. Oh, I love this game so much. Not much to say on Egg Engines 2. There's a water section, which sounds scary, but we start and end above the ground, so there's nothing to worry about. I guess maybe this part can be a bit scary, but be careful and you'll make it through without a worry. This section with the key is a blast, though. A lot of moving both Kirbys around platforms with bottomless pits surrounding both. Doable and very fun. Egg Engines 3 starts with what I like to call Kirby's Workout, since you're a chubby little Kirb and you're having the workout of your life. Oh, and this energy sphere? Worth it. But that's just about it, believe it or not. There's a flare beam segment and an alternate dimension area with a lot of water, but they're both doable and not all that hard. But those who played Return to Dreamland before, you know what's coming. Drum roll, please. Water! Fortunately for us, the current kinda sorta really does all the work for us. So all Kirby has to do is take some damage and we'll be fine without pressing anything. The lights out section here is kinda cramped, but not too difficult. We can even get this energy sphere here without moving Kirby at all. Things go pretty well until this area here. For the most part, we can push Kirby around and he'll be okay. But the energy sphere is something we're gonna have to pass on, unfortunately. It adds too many inputs just getting to it. And then even once you get it, you have to press more inputs just to get out. So not worth it in the long run. As is, unfortunately, we can clear this section with, as far as I can tell, a minimum of 2 inputs. But here's the thing. These are inputs we might be able to save. This one seems like an easy save, since all you really need to do is position Kirby properly, break the blocks, and damage boost the way in. But I was unable to test this one. I went back to this level later to see if, while having Kirby in the right position, we could avoid the input. And while I got it to work, I did move him to the very top each try, just so I didn't have to quit out of the level for every attempt. Being able to pull it off was nice, but actually getting Kirby in this ideal spot just might not be possible at all. There's a good chance that it is, but since I can't confirm either of these inputs, I'm going to include them in the overall total. If I ever revisit this video with improvements, which there's a good chance that I will if it does well, so please like and comment, then I'll give an update on both. Then there's 3 more inputs in this room, and hey, look, a down input. Unfortunately, it's necessary. But after that, we're done with Egg Engines 4. Egg Engines 5 isn't too bad, and we can even get to the second HAL room. Nothing was stopping us from getting to the first one, but I was still learning the ropes and didn't want to go back. The rest of this level is easy, so from here, we fight the Egg Engines boss, as usual with our boss, and it's on to Dangerous Dinner. And honestly, it's not all that dangerous. It isn't easy per se, but for this run, I'd say everything since Onion Ocean was harder. The sad part, though, is that I really don't have that much to add for Dangerous Dinner 1 and 2. I've been spouting a lot of information throughout the entire video, and I've been doing my best not to be repetitive, but really, I can't say much on these two. They're fun, they're well-designed levels, and I enjoy playing them, especially playing normally. Dangerous Dinner is great, but being cut short to 3 levels really makes me want to cut this section short too, I'm not gonna lie. It's just more of the same at this point. The long story short version of these two would really just be that you can clear them both without having Kirby input anything, and you can get all the energy spheres. Oh, both levels have super abilities and really fun alternate dimension bits, so that's nice, but not enough to really go too far in depth to them. However, I will at least go over Dangerous Dinner 3 before we start wrapping things up. This energy sphere was really tricky to get, but I at least had some fun with the Kirbys before getting it. And then we come to the Stomper Boot, which took me a long time, but this is where I finally stepped my game up and got good at these segments. This bit here wasn't too hard, I got it pretty quickly. This one here took me a long time to figure out how I was going to do. Moving 2 different Kirbys this quickly is not easy. Since the Wii Remote is D-pad only, my hand kept slipping on the floating Kirby, which kinda sorta killed most of my attempts. But luckily, of all things, my big toe saved the day. Yeah, it wasn't nearly as slippery as my fingers were at that point, so just using my toe for the piggybacking Kirby, and my hands for the Stomper Boot Kirby, I did it on my first attempt using my toe. But this key segment, I'll be honest, I couldn't do it. It's possible, I know it's possible, but I tried way too long for an energy sphere in the middle of an already long level and failed too many times to actually bother to complete it. Then one final alternate dimension segment, a fight with 2 sphere doomers instead of 1, oh man, 2 final energy spheres, and we're ready to fight Landia. And finally, here we are. We have reached the end game. Landia goes down without a worry, meaning Dangerous Dinner is in fact doable without any inputs, which is nice. After that, it's a trip to another dimension to finish things off. So here's the thing. Very early on, and by very early on I mean immediately, I found out a very tragic fact. You can't push Kirby around while he's riding on Landia. So we better hope this is really poorly designed and you can get through it without moving, or we're gonna have a lot.
Watch out! Good night. I'm finished.
Oh, that hurt. But at least the Lure Star Cutter is easily beatable. If you try playing it out like the Star Shooter segments from Kirby Superstar and Ultra, it might not work out so well. But this attack here just deals so much damage so quickly, it wipes out the lure really fast. And with the Lure Star Cutter taken down, there's only one thing left standing in our way. And it is the final boss himself, Magolor. I love you, you thieving, conniving egg, but I want to end this run really badly. It's time to end this. montage. And with that, it's over. We beat Magolor while Kirby sat in the corner over here doing nothing. Good for him, I guess. And yeah, we are done. Now, before I wrap this up, I do want to go over some numbers real quick. First things first, I am beyond happy to say that our final percentage for the run was in fact 90%. We did it. We got 90% of this game completed with only moving Kirby when we had to. I am so ecstatic. Even better though, the amount of energy spheres that we got, 113. That means out of all the energy spheres, we only missed 7. And the thing with the energy spheres is that the energy spheres are all optional, except for the first one. They're all optional. So to get 113 of the energy spheres, that is 94% of them. I was thinking I might have to lower this percentage goal to 80%. We did so good that not only did we beat the goal of 90%, we almost hit 95. That was incredible. But I shouldn't really be keeping you waiting much longer on this one. Total inputs per world. It's time to add them up and see if we did, in fact, get 30 inputs or less for Kirby's Return to Dreamland. For Cookie Country, 0 inputs. Raisin Ruins, 0 inputs. Onion Ocean, 23 inputs. White Wafers, 1 input. Egg Engines, 5 inputs. Dangerous Dinner, 0 inputs. Another Dimension, 6 inputs. So overall, that number is 35. We did not, in fact, meet our goal of 30 inputs for Kirby's Return to Dreamland. That is the minimum amount of inputs for Kirby's Return to Dreamland, at least as of right now. This challenge really pushed me. Kirby's Return to Dreamland is a game that I can beat in about 6 hours, probably even less if I'm not going for 100%, which I always do because, if the point wasn't clear, I love this game. If you're going to do this and you decide to just not include Onion Ocean, I can't blame you. 23 inputs, way demoralizing. It ruined my motivation to do this run. But you know what? I'm glad I did it. It was such a wild, crazy, and out there idea that I'm so happy I was the first one to attempt. Which made me want to be the one to figure it out all the more if it was, in fact, possible to win without moving Kirby at all. I didn't quite make my wanted goal of 0. Yes, that was my original goal. I didn't even make 30. But if my goal was 35 instead, I'd be pretty darn happy. As is, I'm satisfied. I'm not thrilled, but I'm satisfied. And hey, all things considered, 35 inputs throughout an entire game, it's not that much, especially since our goal was to get as close to 100% as we could. This wasn't just a start-to-finish run, this was an unlock things run. This was a Kirby experience like none other. No matter what I said in this video, no matter what I say going into the future, I'm glad I did it once. If you have the Wii remotes to do it, I highly recommend this, especially if you think Kirby games are too easy. Now to end this video for good, let's revisit my question. What's the minimum amount of inputs from Kirby required to beat Return to Dreamland, if any? It's not possible to clear it without moving him, but Kirby only needs to move a maximum of 35 times in order to win. Well, in the normal mode anyway. Who knows about the extra mode? Who'd be crazy enough to try that one? Oh boy. Hey, thanks so much for watching through to the very end. This was a long video, And it was also my very first, so from the bottom of my heart, I appreciate you watching. If you think you have any ideas to lower the input count, leave them in a comment below. And even if you don't, but have any other kind of input, or just want to help out, comment anyway. Leaving a like and, I don't know, maybe even subscribing would help a lot too. I have a lot of ideas for videos, most of which probably aren't as crazy as this one was, but I'd love it if you stuck around for those too. I have a link to my Twitter in the video description if you'd like to follow me there. I'm Kirby Fan, and I thank you again for watching. Have a great day. See you next time.